Hello, everyone. It's been a while since I've done a talk in person, and so we will see how this goes. Thank you to everyone at Edge for having these meetups. Throughout COVID, we all know that in real life actually really matters. We all went into Zoom during COVID and kind of forgot about what it's like to be in real life. And for me, I actually never really had the opportunity to do in real life crypto stuff before COVID. And so post-COVID, I've been doing the exact opposite, going to all the in-real-life stuff. I can definitely recommend to everyone here that in-real-life crypto events are some of the coolest events that I have ever been to. There's a certain culture that is created by these systems that we all use, and the people that come to be attracted to these systems, using Bitcoin, using Ethereum, using open permissionless systems, the people that like those things are, in my mind, interesting people. The fact that they care about those things, and the fact that things like Bitcoin, things like Ethereum attracts these types of individuals, these individuals in this room today, there's something to say about that. There's also something to say about all the incumbents who don't want these systems to survive, that feel threatened by these systems. Those people also have a very specific disposition about who they are, what their personality is, and so everyone in here is a part of this same value set. Something I say in the intro of one of my podcasts, the Layer Zeros, is that the cypherpunks of who are on my shirt today knew that the code that they write impacts the people that use it. And I think we're all familiar with this, with the stories of Facebook that can tweak some code and cause a civil war in a country in Africa, or can sway elections, our own elections of our own countries. And so very small changes in how these systems work can have massive downstream consequences for how our world, our real life world, actually manifests. And so putting that into a context, there's two ideas I've been chewing on a lot lately that I want to talk about today. One of them is the concept of these open blockchains as public panopticons. And then also what that means to our society if we have a public panopticon. Previously, financial systems have been able to be very, very transparent to a very specific set of people, usually people in government and banks, right? And so they have the ability to see what's going on with our money. And as we all know, money, just like how Facebook can create a civil war or sway an election, money is also at a very fundamental part of society. When you change the money, you change everything that's on top of it, right? The money defines the culture. And so there's a lot of conversation to be had about the faces that are on the dollar bill, which are previous slave owners or just people that have done not good things. And the people that own the dollar, that can print the dollar, are also in people of power. Yeah, there's 12 people that we did not elect behind closed doors that determine the value of our money and where that value goes. I'm sure all the Bitcoiners in here are very familiar with the concept of the Cantillon effect, where people proximate to the money printer are beneficiaries of that proximity. And so when we print 26% of all outstanding US dollars in 2020, that goes to a very specific set of people. And that set of people that find themselves closer to the money printer are not emblematic of society at large. And so the promise of these open systems is to create these social structures that can scale to everyone and to everyone equally without bestowing certain powers or rights upon a very core set of society, and then having the rest of society just jostle for position via corruption and bribery and lobbying, legalize corruption and bribery to get closer to the money printer. So that's the first part of this talk, which I'm just making up as I go. The second part of this talk is the internet did fantastic things for bringing all of society closer together. Everyone has something for them in the internet, whatever your hobbies are. Are you a foodie? Do you like financial markets? Do you want to talk to other coffee snobs about coffee? Like whatever. So the internet's got something for you, and it's brought society all onto the same platform. And with that, we all got closer together. Like the people that like to consume CNBC, fast money type stuff are also right next to the people that like to consume food blogs. And in fact, you can be the same person at once. And where previously we were separated by geographies, we are now able to all operate on these same, like, Web 2 platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and we're all closer together as a society. The one thing that the internet didn't do was bring money along with it. So it brought all of society closer together in terms of information, but not our money. And where the central bank still holds the controls and the reins of money, where everything else kind of got dispersed out to the edges, right? Reddit, Twitter, these all have their own platforms and communities that can come to Reddit and Twitter, and these communities are on the margins. Society has creativity out on the margins, right? But at the center, we have the central banks, where all the money is held. And the promise of crypto is to puncture that bubble that is at the center and have that money wash out to the fringes. And that, once again, by using the powers of open source technologies, we can push money away from the center and into the fringes, where there is art and culture and community. And so I'm going to do my best to try and connect these two topics as we go along. One of my heroes in the space is Andreas Antonopoulos, and I watched him talk at ETH Denver one time, and he brought up what are those, like the crowlers? They're like 32 ounces of beers. And he said, like, okay, this is for me while my mouth gets dry, but also the talk ends when I finish the beer. I only have a 16 ounce or a 12 ounce, so I'm gonna go longer than that, I promise. Okay, so a public panopticon. Just to rehash what a panopticon is. Panopticon is this model of a jail that is in a circle, and it's got multiple levels. And at the very center of this jail is this guard tower, right? So like all these jail cells in a big circle with this guard tower at the center. And the beauty of this design is that the one guard in the guard tower can see into every single jail cell all at once. And so maybe, 3,000 jail cells around a center guard post, right? One guard can't watch all 3,000 whatever jail cells. It's not possible. But as somebody who's in the jail, you don't actually know if they're looking at you or not. So the power of one individual actually does scale out to controlling 3,000 prisoners who are succumbed by this one guard, right? You don't actually know whether you are being watched or not, therefore you have to act like you are being watched. So this is the concept of a panopticon. I call blockchains the public panopticon because the power that one guard has is very, very large. And when we have things like central banking and governments and the NSA and the IRS, who are all watching our transactions, if they want, they can see whatever they want. They have that power, and the reason why they have that power is because they're backed by the military. So this is a very, very big power to see where all the money is in the world, and that power is confined into a very, very small set of people. Wouldn't it be nice if we also had that power? And why shouldn't we? We are a society at large, and society determines what money is. The reason why we value a dollar is because of, I can take out a dollar and you can give me roughly $1 worth of value for that. That is a socially determined thing. While the government imposes the dollars upon us by forcing us to pay our taxes in it, it's really a shared story, a shared narrative. Same thing with Bitcoin. One of my favorite examples I've heard about people trying to learn their head around Bitcoin is they're like, oh, Bitcoin is just worth the value that people pay for it, right? So that's what money is. Money is just worth the value that people pay for it on the secondary market. And so all these values are, these secondary market asset values, are determined by social narratives, social stories. We can get into the concept of fundamentals, but at the end of the day, even the stories that we tell of what fundamentals are still stories all the way down. Price to earnings flow, discounted cash flow models, these are all just stories and narratives. And so stories all the way down. And now where was I going with this? Okay, so we have this public panopticon, and we just bestow these rights and powers on these central governments to see where all the money is. And with Bitcoin and crypto, they're a more legitimate technology in the eyes of society, or at least this is where they will trend, because of the fact that the ability to see where all the money is now democratized to everyone. We all have that choice. These are public, open blockchains. And it's the biggest misunderstanding of regulators or just naysayers about crypto. It's like, oh, it's shadowy. We don't know what's going on. There's money laundering. No. There's no money laundering. You just don't know how to look at it yet. And granted, this is very new technology. Like, we're still trying to get our heads wrapped around it. And there are these companies like Chainalysis that a lot of people don't really like in this space because they think that they are doing what the central banks and the governments have always done, but now they're doing it for crypto. Granted, one moment. Granted, anyone can do this, and that's the point about these things. Anyone can look at the blockchain. And there's all this drama about, like, well, if this company sells this service of inspecting the blockchain and sells that services to the government, that's bad, that company's bad. Someone is going to do that. And the reason why these Chainalysis type companies that are just going deep into the data about who's spending what and violating our privacy, they have just gotten really good at that first. And where there is the Chainalysis of the world, there's also a version of Chainalysis that is more public, that we can all use. And the power of these systems is that we all get to look at where the money is. It is a shared right. Money is a public utility. It's something that we all need to use to get by. And now with blockchains, what is also a public utility is the ability to see where all the money is. Society gets to track its money. And that makes that money legitimate. And as a story being told, again, where money is just a story, we can just convince other people to use money if we can get that story right. It becomes very, very, very legitimate. And that is the story that a portion of society is figuring out right now, and that's why we're at all-time highs. Is because people are figuring out the systems are just extremely legitimate. They only work by legitimacy. And one of the reasons why it works is because we all have the rights to inspect the blockchain or inspect our money systems in ways that we've never had before. That's really cool. And it really lends itself, going back to the cypherpunks. Cypherpunks understood that the code that they write impacts the people that use it. And if people can look at where all the money is, we as a society get to determine what is legitimate. And so there's all these conversations about, like, hacks in the cryptocurrency space where some shadowy supercoder steals $100 million from this DeFi app or from this exchange. And, well, that's bad because these systems are immutable, and that money went to that coder, the shadowy supercoder, no matter what. But as a society, we get to watch what that dude's doing. Like, we get to watch where that money goes. And now there's the conversation of, like, mixers, tumblers, privacy apps. You can put these things through the privacy apps. But this is where the conversation of nation states comes back into play. Well, there's a lot of crypto anarchists out there, a lot of people who just want these government and social institutions to die. I'm not like that. I think that the institutions of crypto are going to enable systems of government to be better because it puts a check upon them. And so some shadowy supercoder hacks a $100 million app. Society is like, we don't like that guy. We don't know who he is. We don't know where he is. We don't know what he's going to do with the money, but we can watch that money go and then maybe disappear. But then the money comes back out of these privacy apps, and at some point, they hit an exchange. And this is where the regulation of nation states comes into play, is where you have to report your taxes, like, hey, where'd that money come from? Now that we have a public Panopticon, we can see and determine what money is legitimate and what money is not legitimate. Where did you get that money? And if you can't answer that, society is enabled to say, like, well, that money is you earned that money in legitimate means, or you didn't. And what are laws other than people coming and determining what our values are and determining how those things get to be treated? And so due to this public Panopticon, we as a society get to actually determine legitimacy with much more precision. And so we actually get to bestow our human values into our money at a much scalable level, far more scalable than ever before. And it's simply as a result of everyone gets to see where the money flows are in the world. And so if society gets to watch all the money, we actually get to check ourselves. We get to make sure that our neighbor is doing the right things, that they are doing things that we believe in. And so society will never be out of this, like, freedom from surveillance, freedom from privacy, because we just look at what our friends and neighbors are doing. And it's not like we're snooping on them, but this is what society does. We are all a global society. We all have our choices to our neighbors and our companies. Their choices have impacts upon us. And this is why You'll never actually get to be a full libertarian state because your choices impact people, and there will always be a nation state to help regulate some of those choices. But with the power of a public panopticon, some of these choices that are being made can be informed much more with much more precision and data about the choices we want to see for ourselves. And so one of the bigger problems of the world, like climate change or all these massive problems, can actually just be informed about where this money has come from and where it is going. And so it's really, really important to democratize access to inspecting the blockchain. This is now also a public utility. Society gets to say and also see what we actually value. If society can see where society is also allocating money, it's like, oh, we as a society have pushed money towards this like industry. And we can just see that on the blockchain. We can see the value flows. We can see the money flows. And we can actually determine what our human values are. And we can look at ourselves and look at our own human values. It's like, well, like, look at all this money that's going towards, digital casinos, and we forgot about climate change. It's actually easier to see that nowadays. And so as a society, we get to look at ourselves and ask, who are we, with much more precision. And this is where I think I'll try and lend this into the conversation of the internet bringing society closer and closer together. I already started this a little bit at the start, but I'll just rehash it. Before the internet, we were very, very geographically dispersed. If you worked in business, if you worked in finance, you were in New York. If you worked in coffee, I guess you were in Seattle. I don't know. You were separated, right? And the internet, all our computers got closer together, and we could actually talk to people. And then just mere talking and communication also brings society closer together. But really, we figured, and that's just Web 1, right? Just connecting all the computers together. Web 2 is all about these platforms that really scale that operation up. Bring everyone into the same fold. Everyone is on Twitter. Everyone is on Facebook. Everyone's having these global conversations. And so we are allowing ourselves to be closer and closer to society through our communication. And again, money is just another form of communication. It's just communicating value from person to person. Whereas, the internet of Web 1 and Web 2 is communicating language and meaning through words. The internet of Web 3 is, I can actually tell you how much I value that thing by a monetary asset. I value this much, and I can prove that to you because I'm going to spend $10 on it. That was not possible before in the early days of the internet. And so as the society came closer and closer together by putting us all into this shared spot where we could have global conversations. What is Twitter other than just like humanity at large having one massive conversation? When a tweet just blows up and hits like 200,000 retweets and a bajillion likes, it's because that's society telling you, we value that because of all the likes that it got. Same thing with like all these memes that like just go viral on Reddit. Memes are a way of the internet not having one particular voice, but elevating something that all people in the internet actually agree with, right? When a meme takes off, there is actually maybe somebody who created that meme, but no one really pays attention to the one meme creator. It's more about the fact that everyone agreed with that meme. Everyone resonated with that meme. These days, I'm very, very in tune to a lot of these Zoomer millennial memes around like depression and anxiety and suicidality, and they make jokes about it, and they're pretty funny. But they're making jokes about like being suicidal. This is the younger generations of the world just like elevating their concerns, not through just like a blog post, but just like a meme that everyone can resonate with, which is kind of crazy. It's just the internet. These memes that come up to the surface and we all can start to resonate and recognize are how we know what society at large is thinking, because we all resonate it. That's the way of society at large coming up with it. It's like universal hive mind consciousness. And what are memes? They're like pictures are 1,000 words, right? Memes are just like the most packaged thing into like the smallest, densest bit of information that can go viral, right? And the virality of the meme is a factor of how many people actually resonate with these things. And so again, this is all just the internet like allowing society at large to have a voice, not just one person having a voice or a handful of people having a voice, but what happens when all of society all gets a voice together. What happens when we put our brains together and we have these like platforms like TikTok and Twitter that are just these virality platforms? Really what these things are doing is they're allowing society to have a conversation with itself. And these conversations can progress, right? Like memes actually build on each other. And so like one good meme can spawn 1,000 other good memes. There's like these Reddits, subreddits like our meme economy or meme formats that really just like say like, hey, that meme format, like that's gonna work. And really what that's saying is like, hey, we found like a new vehicle to express what we want even better now. We can go even more viral. People will resonate with this one even more. And this is just about communication. We haven't even gotten to the crypto part of this yet. The crypto part, and where like the power of Ethereum comes in with specifically tokens. Tokens allow, the cool thing about the Renaissance was that we made these printers. We made the printing press, right? And so we could just like pump out ideas. That's what the printing press was. It was like an idea machine. If you had a good idea, you can make your idea go viral via the printing press. Now with tokens, we can do kind of similar things. And this is what we're seeing like evolve, not only with like the DAO revolution, where people of DAOs are all coming into these organizations, and the reason why they go into these organizations is because they resonate with what's going on with the DAO. We started the Bankless DAO. The Bankless DAO is about promoting bankless technologies through media and culture. That's just one DAO. There's also, there's the Uniswap DAO, which is about making sure that the world has access to public exchange liquidity. Well, there's also Friends with Benefits DAO, which is really just like a social club. All of these things have values instantiated in them. And really all a DAOs are a terrible name, by the way, decentralized autonomous organizations. They're just digital organizations. They're just digital organizations of people, and each one creates its own culture for people to come and be a part of. And then they have a token associated with them. And so these tokens actually embody the value of the asset, embody the values of the DAO. The DAO has a specific mission. If a lot of people resonate with that mission, they will go join the DAO. And if they really resonate with that mission, they will actually start contributing to the DAO. And then this DAO will grow, and so will the asset. And so this token that was just created, that's really just trying to facilitate coordination with all DAO members, actually embodies the human values that people put into these DAOs. And you actually can see how much people actually value this DAO. Like, there's one part that's like, well, yeah, DAOs also need to be a company, right? It needs to be self-sustainable. It needs to actually have economic output. And yes, this is true. You can't just say like, oh, this is the good DAO. If people like being good, go to the good. It doesn't work like that. But it's about mission, values, and like how much energy can you actually put into these DAOs. And that's just DAOs. We also have that whole NFT phenomenon. We have the CryptoPunks, the Bored Apes, the Cool Cats, the Pudgy Penguins. I went up to a Cool Cats meetup up in LA, and that had a very specific culture and vibe. And so many of these people got pulled into this Cool Cats just NFT project, which is a DAO in a different name, right? Like all these people shared values of cats, apparently. All enjoy hanging out with each other, and so many people came into the world of crypto just because of cats. So many people I met was like, oh yeah, like I don't have any Ether, I never bought any Bitcoin. I bought this cat, I don't know why, I thought it was cool. Now it's worth like $30,000. And everyone else I'm meeting here is also really nice and has a similar story. And then all of a sudden, like this turns into a project, right? Like, well, now we have some financial capital. We can actually turn this thing into a thing and see where this goes. We got seed invested by like culture of NFT, and now that we have this thing, we can like do something with it. And they have to figure out their values. So the Cool Cats is like a DAO. It's a digital organization of people with shared values and shared languages. And that's just NFTs. This keeps on going. Every single asset on Ethereum will have some sort of values baked into it. And Bitcoin started this whole thing. Bitcoin values are very, very clear. No cap, or yeah, hard cap. That's it. There's like a conversation about proof of work and 10-minute block times, small blocks. But really, Bitcoin is like hard cap. That's the one value that they have. And there's a lot of values baked into that as well, right? Like the inability for other people to print money. No one can print money. And so there in the crypto world, there's these seigniorage problems, right? Like we have these monies, and if you have a money, you have an ability to make more of it, right? If you have a money protocol, somewhere there's a money printer. There's the ability to actually make more of it. So Bitcoin comes along and says like, hey, we just made Bitcoin. We have this seigniorage problem because if we made Bitcoin, we can make more Bitcoin. So what do we do with this seigniorage problem? We take the money printer and we smash it and we break it. And now no one can make any more Bitcoins. That's what Bitcoin is. Ethereum tries to solve the same problem in a roundabout way, where Ethereum comes along and says, hey, we just have this Ether currency. We need to solve this seigniorage problem. And the seigniorage problem is who actually gets the money that is issued. Because, again, if you have a money printer, if you have a money, you have a money printer. You can just make more of it somehow. And so Ethereum solves this in a different way, where instead of destroying the money printer, they just distribute Ether to everyone. And part of the ethos of proof of stake and lowering the hardware requirements by eliminating proof of work and allowing everyone to run a node is like, hey, it's a bad thing to issue money, but it's not bad if everyone gets to take part in that issuance. These are values that are baked into these chains. Cypherpunks understood that the code that they write impacts the people that use it. And so now we have all these different assets with all these different cultures, and they're doing all these different things. And in the same way that, like, once upon a time, there was the internet community. It was like these handful of people that were like exploring the frontiers of this like newly created web of computers. And it was all like the computer geeks that like really figured it out, that actually had the motivation to figure this stuff out. Once upon a time, there was the internet community. No longer is there the internet community. There's just the internet, and we're all on it. The internet figured out how to absorb all of us, and it did that by giving something for everyone. One of the first subreddits that I really liked on Reddit was the rock climbing subreddit. Like, that's where I learned a lot about rock climbing. I'm sure there are internet communities that you guys are a part of, or just maybe just newsletters, which maybe is less of a community, but you're still reading the same things as other people that choose to read that thing, right? An internet newsletter with 10,000 subscribers, there's 10,000 people that choose to spend some of their time reading that newsletter. And so that is a community in of itself. Shared values, shared meaning, shared purpose to understand what's going on in that newsletter. So the internet made all these internet communities and pulled people in. Sometimes I talk without catching my breath. And really the internet won by giving something for everyone. And that is what we're seeing here in crypto today. And one of the big takeaways I came out of NFT NYC, I got back on Sunday, is that crypto is so big now. And like a lot of people that went through the bear market, we all wanted the bear market at the end. The bear market sucked. God, that was awful. But like now we're all like, God, there are so many new people here. I can't recognize anyone. There's so much noise. Some of us are starting to look back on like the bear market with like a little bit of nostalgia. It's like, man, remember when it was just us? Like, wasn't that a nice time? I would never wish to go back to a bear market. But crypto is growing up in the same way that the internet grew up. Crypto is growing up, and we are starting to see differentiation in the same way that a new organism, a new mammal, goes from 2 cells to 4 cells to 8 cells, and then it's still just a pack of cells. But then it goes and then you see a heart, and then you see a spine, and then you see an arm and a leg and fingers. Like, crypto is differentiating right now. That is where we are in crypto's history. We're seeing people come into the world of NFTs, the world of DAOs, the world of Bitcoin, and just care about that thing. And so there are all these people that are coming into NFTs and they're like, oh, like, yeah, this cat is really, really cute. I don't really know. I don't give a shit about DeFi. Like, DeFi is weird. But cats are cool. And this is how this is going to work. But the difference now is that we are all on the crypto platform. Whether you care about NFTs, whether you care about DAOs, whether you care about sound money, doesn't matter what your values are. You're on crypto. You're using crypto. You're part of the crypto community. And so, like there was once upon a time an internet community, and now there's just the internet, we are going through that phase of once upon a time there was the crypto community, but now we are just growing into there's just the world. There's just us. And one of the reasons why is because of the concept of legitimacy. We are all bestowing legitimacy into the things that we do. The more people that take part in a DAO, the more people that take part in an NFT project, more people that take part in Bitcoin, bestow legitimacy into that thing, into those things. And so we were talking with Ariana Simpson of A16Z on Bankless, and she was joking about how A16Z has all these different funds. It has like the gaming fund, it has the Web 2 tech fund, it also has the crypto fund. The crypto fund is getting so large, and all the people in the gaming fund are now doing stuff with crypto anyways. And so like the gaming fund is now becoming part of the crypto fund, and the crypto fund is just eating the gaming fund. And this model happened before. Once upon a time, there was internet funds, and now there are just funds. And so crypto is starting to expand itself to the whole entire world. And this becomes really, really important. Like I said at the beginning, the internet forgot to do one thing. When it made all these different communities, it forgot to also have money that's also part of these communities. And one thing that I definitely noticed at NFT NYC is that you have the DeFi people that care about finance, and you have like the culture people that care about art, whether it's like one of one NFTs, artist NFTs, and these people are in the same spot in ways that they have never been seen before, which is really, really awesome. And the reason why it's so awesome is because our artists are always at the margins. They're always on the fringes. You have this like stereotype of the starving artist that lives in a cheap neighborhood. The artist comes in, they start doing art stuff. Good artists do good art stuff, and then people, society, like art. We like art. The whole point of society is culture, but that's a talk for a different day. We like art, and so we gravitate towards art. We gravitate towards culture. And so the artist comes in, they're on the margins of society, they start doing art things, and then wherever they're doing art things, whatever city they're in, wherever neighborhood they're in, they make that area cooler because there's art there. And so then they bring in a coffee store, a restaurant, somebody builds an apartment building, and we start to gentrify it. Like more people come in. And then all of a sudden, like that place that was previously like the margins of society starts to come into the fold, starts to come into the center of society. And then it just goes from there, right? Then more restaurants come in, bigger buildings, a skyscraper, like some banks, God forbid. And then at some point, that pushes the artist further out away from the center and even more into the margins, because art is a very hard thing to make a livelihood on. Like art is like the last thing that gets funded. It's always the last thing that if you have disposable income, the last thing you're going to do is buy art with it, because you have to do all the other stuff first. And so artists are always pushed out to the margins. Meanwhile, we have central banking. Central banking. Artists on the margins, culture on the margins, and banking at the center. And one of the reasons why banking is always at the center is because of the power of, the military forces the value of the dollar. You have to use the dollar, but also because they have a monopoly on the ability to see where all the money goes. Going back to the public Panopticon, that's a power that they have. It's also why we should be a little bit fearful of the Chinese central bank digital currency, but again, a topic for a different day. The cool thing about crypto is that, so imagine, if you will, just like a big sphere. We have all the cultures on the margins, right? And like everyone at the center who's doing more just like middle class level stuff, like, you know, whatever middle class people do. All the things. And then we have the people at the margins, and then at the very center you have like the Wall Street bankers, you have the hedge funds, you have the concentration of wealth, the social elite, the people that have the power to actually like run away from taxes, right? Like the Panama Papers, push all their money elsewhere. As the people on the margins, we can actually see what's going on there. We don't know what they're doing, but they're doing it because they have that kind of power. And then at the very, very center is the central bank, where the power of all of the money that we all use exists and where it resides. That's where the money printer is. The money printer is right at the center. All of society is basically just like in concentric circles around the money printer, because that's where value flows away from. And what crypto does, what Bitcoin did, is that Bitcoin pops the bubble at the center. And imagine like a water balloon at the very center of this concentric circles, and that it's contained, it's gate kept. All of the water, which is the money here, is gate kept by the power of the military, the central bank, which is the water balloon, right? The balloon containing the water. And these central operators dictate where that flow goes, how much goes out. But crypto comes and says, hey, we are going to democratize access to the ability to print money. Bitcoin democratizes it by eliminating it. Ethereum democratizes it by allowing everyone to be a part of the network. And so crypto pops that bubble. And imagine just what happens when money, which is in a water balloon, pops, and then it just splashes on the ground and flows out to the margins. And this is what we are seeing. There is no coincidence that this massive boom in NFTs happened right after DeFi summer. So all DeFi summer, yield farming, all this crazy speculation, for better or for worse, then a lot of people made a lot of money in DeFi summer. And then what happened right afterwards is the NFT boom, the art boom, the culture boom. And this is what happens when you put the financiers right next to the artists. They fund art, and we've seen this before. This is what the Renaissance was. The Renaissance was, we figured out double entry bookkeeping, and then we figured out how to actually push out value management to the margins. Double entry bookkeeping is this decentralized technology of watching the books. We've seen this all before. It happened 600 or 700 years ago. Right after we figured out double entry bookkeeping and we made the rise of banks that aren't bestowed their power by kings and instead bestow their power by free market competition, what happens next is these bankers make a lot of money because now we have the power of banking pushed out to the margins, pushed out to the individual. The individual can be a banker. What happens next is these people just start funding art because what else are they going to do? They made all this money, and so now they start funding art. And then boom, we have the greatest cultural creation event of all time. That is what we are in the middle of right now. And a lot of people are skeptical on NFTs, oh, they're just JPEGs. We'll figure that out, but it's going to work. People want it to work because that's what happens when you put the freedom to manage and hold money as an individual, where you have your own private keys, which is a fundamental part about this whole thing. So thank you for Edge Wallet for allowing people to do that. And then you put them right next to the artists that are doing these crazy, awesome, creative things, and they're just doing it because they think it's cool. And society likes things to be cool, and so the people that are doing the cool things in the right way, those people are the new artists that are going to be receiving a lot of this money that has just been created based off of the legitimacy of the people that are bestowing into this money. So now we have legitimate money that's also pushed out into the fringes, and we have this artists that are in the same spot. And so everyone here, because of crypto, can be their own bank, and then everyone here, because of the value that has been gatekept by Wall Street and the Federal Reserve, that goes into your pockets. Being your own banker, being your own bank, receives upon you the value of that, where previously it was gatekept by the Federal Reserve and the central bank. Now that's in the hands of everyone. We democratize the access to the money printer. We democratize access to the public Panopticon. So wrapping this all together, we are all our own bank. We all get to fundamentally direct our money in ways that we see aligned with our human values. Do you want to be a part of this DAO because it resonates with you? Sure. Do you want to buy this NFT because it resonates with you? Well, now that we all have the means to do this, because society now owns the money, we all get to find ourselves more aligned with the values that we hold. One of the lines that I keep on chanting, every time I get on the Bankless podcast, is the legacy of crypto will be about aligning the market value of our assets with our human values, which is, in my mind, the greatest cultural creation event that I think we can ever see. And so the Renaissance took really 100 years to really get unfolded. The printing press was actually created in one physical spot, and then it had to go out from there. And then the same with the idea of double entry bookkeeping. Somebody made the idea, and then that information had to disperse out from that. The Renaissance didn't have the internet to espouse its ideas, to talk about these things. And so we are going to speed run through the Renaissance so fast that it's going to blow everyone's minds. Granted, it's still going to take 10 years, which is really, really slow. But going from 100 years for a whole entire Renaissance down to 10 years, that's really, really nice. You can almost watch it happen in real time. And that is what we are seeing happen today. And that is what makes me fundamentally bullish, not only on the assets, but on humanity at large. And going back to what I was saying about these younger generations feeling just strife and exclusion from the world around them. One of the reasons why crypto is going to work is everyone in crypto is really, really optimistic. And that is missing from basically everywhere in society. The left hates the right. We have global warming. We have all of these terrible things that we just can't figure out how to deal with. And so it's just causing everyone to be, we just came out of a pandemic. It's causing everyone a lot of just strife. The crypto people are some of the most optimistic, most excited about the future part of society that you can find. In my mind, it's the most. And that's one of the reasons why it's infectious. It brings people in. And so one of the reasons why crypto is going to work is it bestows optimism upon people because we can finally be excited about the future. There's cool things that's going to happen. Like people are actually able to experiment and take risks and go out onto the margins and create newer stuff because they have the money to do it, because it stopped being gatekept by the central banks and the Federal Reserve and all the commercial banks for what that matters. And so for the first time ever, we have a component of society that is experimenting at rapid pace. And what they are really doing is they are finding new ways to bestow values into assets and make those assets available to everyone on the internet ubiquitously. And that is why I'm bullish on humanity. Thank you.
David has quite a few followers here tonight, I would imagine. So do we have questions in the audience? We'll take a few questions. Here we go.
Hi, David. First off, did you claim your ENS yet?
I have a funny story about that. The two addresses that I have associated with my ENS, the private keys are in Seattle. Yeah. So I got to go back home and do that. But I got 6 months to claim my ENS. So at some point, I'll go back home and I'll do that.
You got time. I haven't done it yet either. And also, what you were sharing about humanity and transparency with the money, I agree completely. And I think we're seeing that now with NFTs being the new Rolex. We're showing what we're worth in a different way, and there's more transparency. And so you talked about, human values aligning with our wallets, and now I see this as an opportunity for philanthropy to come center stage. Before, people would give, and they would give amounts we didn't know how much unless it was on a bench or something with a number next to it. Now we can see what's in someone's wallet. So I imagine that there's this opportunity to have transparency around giving and philanthropy in a new way. And I would love for you to speak to how you see that evolving or what you could see that looking like in the future.
Yeah, totally. One of the cool things that I think will happen about crypto is that we are going to be able to make things that we would otherwise be donating to actually more economically sustainable in their own right. As in, you can actually have a profit incentive while also executing upon the same goals that you would have been otherwise donating towards. And so with ENS, actually, when we were talking to Brantley Milligan, what ENS is, it's a security protocol. It's a public goods, like the namespace around Ethereum. That is a public good. And now we have a token that actually has a market value on these things. And the cool thing about this is that this public good is worth roughly $4 billion as determined by the market cap of the asset. That's the actual number. I think the last I checked, it was like $45. There's 100 million of them. So yeah, $44.5 billion. There's a public good that actually is being priced by the market. And that's one of the big failures of markets thus far, is that a lot of public goods can't be priced. And so because the collapsing of the cost of issuing a token and also making a social organization has gone down so low, that we can actually start to eat into the philanthropy world and start to have that actually be facilitated by the free market, which hopefully does the same thing. Hopefully that answers your question.
Is a Klima an example of that?
Totally, yeah. Klima DAO, yeah. So Klima DAO, it's a treasury that has this kind of flywheel mechanism, and when this flywheel goes, it buys off of carbon credits off the secondary markets and puts it in the treasury, which continues the flywheel. We'll see, this thing just started, so we'll see how this works out in the long term. But yeah, it's actually like, no, it's actually trying to like end philanthropy by making it into our markets. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So David, one of the big initiatives in the cryptocurrency space is increased level of privacy. And you see a lot of privacy coins gaining a lot of popularity. Does that throw a wrench in your philosophy of the transparency of the financial markets and systems and the benefits that that provides?
Yeah, totally. But that's where it gets back into like, if you want to like buy something in your nation state, like you have to take your money into through a gated exchange, and that's where central governments have their control, right? The on and off ramps. And so if you're taking your money out of like Tornado Cash or any other privacy like Tumblr tool, and you can't say where you got it from, like, well, you're not going to be able to buy a house. And so this is why it's really important for everyone to be able to check on that, right? And so we can all see like, hey, this person all of a sudden showed up with $10 million one day and he got it. How? We can now ask ourselves these questions. So yes, that story is not complete. How easy it will be to actually evade these things is yet to be determined. But the point is we all get to see, we all get to watch.
Thank you, David. Round of applause.